guys seen this video on TikTok, but New Orleans is haunted.
Welcome to Eerie, Enigma, where the night attracts spooky clips from TikTok, where the mystery acts, chilling tales of haunting, shadows dance inside. Join us as we explore the paranormal fright. In the stillness of the night, whispers call your name.
Subscribe, like, and share. New Orleans doesn't just have ghosts, it has energy.
People visit for a weekend and leave with stories they can't explain. Disappearing strangers, shadows in cemeteries, that feeling of being watched. We're talking about what might still be there.
Now, this is the girl that I am pretty sure met Marie Laveau. Let's get into her spooky story. Pretty much, the girl and her sister, we're gonna call the girl Entai. So Entai and her sister moved to Louisiana around the same time. And Entai says ever since moving to New Orleans, she has experienced a lot of mysterious things that she just cannot explain. So before that point, they had never been to Louisiana or New Orleans, so they decided to take a day and do touristy things. Well, while walking Jackson Square, they came across a lady doing tarot reading. Now, Entai really didn't want to do the tarot reading, but her sister did. So now her sister's getting this reading, and this lady is reading her. She was saying things that were happening currently in her life that were true. She even predicted things that would happen in the upcoming following months. And those things also came into fruition. I mean, there was no way this lady could have known these things about her sister, so they just pretty much laughed it off and paid the lady on Cash App. And about their day, and about 3 months later, the sister realized that everything that the lady predicted actually came into fruition. Out of curiosity, they decided to go and find the lady again. Went back to Jackson Square the next day after realizing that everything came true, but they went looking for the lady and she wasn't there. There were other vendors in the area that had been working there for like 10-15 years, so Entai decided to go up to the other vendors to ask basically like, about her whereabouts. She is describing this lady to these people, and these people are like, nope, we've never seen anybody work around here that looks like the lady that you're describing. The lady that you're describing doesn't work here and has never worked here. According to the other workers, there was never even a lady that did tarot card readings there. And these people, mind you, have been working there for the past 10 to 15 years consecutively, every day. Telling these girls, like, we don't know what you're talking about. A lady like that never even worked here. So now Entai and her sister just start feeling crazy. Like, there's no way, like, we imagined this, right? Entai was the one who paid the lady, so she remembered that she paid her via Cash App. Opened her Cash App to get the lady's name. And y'all, there was no Cash App transaction. Like, at all. It's as if Entai never Cash Apped this lady, and she remembers watching the money leave her account to Cash App the lady. And now she's looking back, the transaction never happened and the money is still in her account. At this point, the sisters realize that there's something real dark and mysterious going on here and they don't want no parts. Because they were so spooked out, they decided to let the situation go. But however, every time they're in that area, they would still, look out to see if they see the lady. And it's been 4 years now and still nothing. Now, this is fascinating because about 2 weeks ago, we came across a video of somebody talking about a disappearing bar again in New Orleans, and she left a comment on that video about her own experiences in New Orleans. The comment that she left had a lot of traction, so a lot of people were like, replying back and forth. But there was one particular comment that caught her attention. Somebody commented and said, was it Marie Laveau? And the only Marie Laveau that she knows is from American Horror Story, so she decided to go and see like an actual depiction or an actual picture of Marie Laveau. And y'all, she said, I kid you not, my heart just about stopped. Because the pictures depicting Marie Laveau actually looked exactly like the tarot card reader. So she doesn't know if she came in contact with Marie Laveau. But how spooky. So I'm going to tag her page down below, and you guys can go check out her videos for yourself. Like I say at the end of every single video, I love you, my abducted humans. If you have any spooky stories that you want me to tell, feel free to submit them to me right here on TikTok or on Instagram. Like I say at the end of every single video, I love you, my abducted humans, from your favorite Haitian homegirl.
Experiences like that really stay with you. And sometimes you just want clarity. That's actually why I partnered with Psychic Source for today's video. I recently connected with an advisor named Nova, and she was honestly really warm and easy to talk to. It didn't feel dramatic. It just felt like a normal conversation. I asked her about a reoccurring dream I've had since I was a kid, and the way she explained it actually made sense to me and gave me the reassurance I needed. Sometimes it just helps to talk to someone who isn't directly involved in your life, someone neutral who can offer a different perspective. What I liked most was how easy everything was. You can browse profiles, see what each advisor specializes in, and choose someone who fits your vibe. You can connect by phone, video, or even chat, whatever feels most comfortable. Psychic Source has been around for over 35 years, and only 2% of applicants make it through their vetting process. They also offer a 100% satisfaction guarantee, and something I really appreciate is that 1% of every purchase goes to a charity of your choice at no extra cost. If you've been looking for clarity, whether it's relationships, career, or your future, new customers can get up to 40 minutes for under $20. You don't even have to use it all at once. You can click the link in my description or go to trypsychicsource.com/Eerie Enigma to get started. Now, let's get back to tonight's stories.
You want to hear some scary shit? Well, let's go back to New Orleans. This story was submitted by another one of our paranormal baddies. She is an RN and she was at a nursing conference. And of course, after the conferences, we want to explore the city. Now, this wasn't a very touristy time of year, so it wasn't like the quarter was full at this time. So she stumbles upon a bar. And she notices it's really inviting. The wind is blowing a little bit, swaying the sign. It's a little bit of fog out there, but it's inviting. She walks in and assesses the situation. She notices that there is a lot of Victorian era decor. Even the patrons are dressed in Victorian style clothing as if there was a theme party. In the corner, there is a piano being played, but the music is hypnotic, but eerie. She sits down at the bar and orders her a drink, and she meets this lovely lady. Let's call her Genevieve. The first thing she says that she notices about Genevieve are her impossible green eyes, piercing, and her red garnet lipstick. Genevieve suggests that she gets another type of drink and she orders it for the nurse. So the nurse states that the drink was kind of thick, but it wasn't too sweet. Perfect. They're talking, exchanging, little casualties, nothing really too deep. But she notices that the room gets a little blurry. Not anything to alarm her. She's just thinking, ooh, this drink is a little strong. And then she pays attention to the piano again because now it's like the music is moving her and she's being hypnotized. Little Miss Genevieve here touches her and asks her, "Are you okay?" She notices that Genevieve's skin is a little cold and notices that it's also very pale. Now our nurse says the next thing she remembers is waking up in her hotel room, fully clothed, but her feet were still wet from the cobblestone, her shoes. She goes into the mirror to wash her face, and she notices there's a red dot here. She said not a bite mark, but a red dot. The next day, she's walking around asking locals about this bar, and they're like, "I don't know what you're talking about," or they're, kind of turning pale themselves, and "No, I don't know what you're saying." Until she runs into a bartender who's an older gentleman, and he says, he heard of a place like that, but it burnt down in the 1800s. And, there were all kinds of vampires and sorts of things, and they would invite tourists in, and the tourists would never leave the same. The nurse is like, absolutely not. This is not possible. But she goes back to the same spot, and all there was old bricks and overgrown ivy. There seems to be a going trend in New Orleans of buildings being there and then disappearing. The RN now lives in England and states that when the fog rolls in, it's almost as if she can hear the piano playing again, and she still dreams about Genevieve to this day. So when you're in New Orleans, keep your head on a swivel. And I mean, how are you gonna know till it happens, right? Some scary shit.
My first time visiting New Orleans almost ruined every chance of me ever coming back. Let me explain. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, let me know that she was going on a business trip to New Orleans. And she said, well, technically, like, if you just take off some time and book a flight, you can just come with me. The company already paid for the room. So we was just thinking, okay, we got us a little vacation book. We really didn't do a whole lot of research on the city. All she knew is she wanted to go see the Garden District and she wanted to get a hand grenade. So when we got to the city, we going down Canal Street, we going down Bourbon and all of that. We visiting just the normal tourist places. We went to the casino, racked up. We hit a couple bars on Bourbon. She had her a hand grenade, I had me one. And if you have ever had a hand grenade, you know it gets you right. So it hadn't got late at night and we were both feeling a little buzz, but not too spaced out. But we were getting close to the end of our trip. So she said, okay, I want to take this night and I want to go visit the Garden District before we go home. So we started asking people around the city, like, how do we get to the Garden District? We just trying to get there tonight before we have to go home. They told us, okay, you can't take one of the rail cars because we had been taking the rail cars the whole time we was there. But they said, for this, you got to get on one of the buses and you got to take this bus. Then they're going to take you to the Garden District and you just get off on the right bus stop. I am not ashamed to say I had never really used public transportation up to that point. But if you have never used public transportation before, it is confusing. And you have to be an adult and know which stop to get off on because ain't nobody finna tell you, okay, this is your stop. So we got off on the wrong bus stop. They just dropped us off in the middle of a neighborhood. It was folks standing around smoking. So I looked on my phone to see when the next bus was going to come. And I was like, oh, okay, we got about a good 30 minutes before the next bus comes. So we just took the time. It wasn't like the neighborhood was bad. So we just walked around the neighborhood that we were in and said, we just going to walk a little bit because it's sketchy people hanging around here. But then we're going to come back before the bus gets here. So we walk down the street a little ways and we make a left. And there's some big, beautiful houses out there. But on the other side of the road, there was just this long wall. And I'm asking myself, like, I wonder what this long wall is. I would eventually find out that it's the cemetery just in the middle of the neighborhood, just the cemetery, which people who live in New Orleans and anybody who visits know that's not something that's abnormal for them. So we just like, oh, okay, bet. It's the cemetery. Okay, we'll just leave the cemetery alone, let it have its space, and we're going to walk on this side of the road. But apparently the cemetery did not agree with this statement, so it sent somebody to, keep an eye on us. Because as we were walking down the sidewalk, minding our business, we just hear footsteps. So I quickly turn around and see, like, who was following us. Ain't nobody there. So we speed up a little ways because we don't know. We think maybe they just trying to hide, but they trying to sneak up on us. Maybe it's one of the sketchy guys that was at the bus stop. So we walking down a little bit more. We still hear the footsteps pick up. Turn around again. Nobody is there. At this point, we have to make a conscious decision, like, do we keep walking deeper into this neighborhood or do we turn around now and go back to the bus stop and just wait? We decided, okay, we're going to go back to the bus stop and we're going to wait. But to do that, we had to walk past the footsteps. So we are walking past these footsteps. I got my camera light on. She got her phone light on. And we just checking behind trees and checking behind buildings and everything, trying to see, is there somebody who's just hiding? We ain't find nobody. And thank God we made it back to the bus stop. We hopped back on the bus and we found out that we were, in fact, not in the Garden District. So if you ever decide to visit New Orleans, please be careful, especially around those cemeteries. Make sure you have a map of the city. If there's anywhere you want to go, make sure you know where you're going before you get there. Either way, I love you, New Orleans. I still continue to visit y'all, even though the last time we went, somebody tried to put a curse on my baby. But never mind that. I love y'all. The food is delicious.
Apparently, when you walk around New Orleans, you always feel watched, and there's a reason why, according to this man who emailed, and he said that his Creole grandmother told him a story that still sticks with him, and he said she's long past, but she would probably want people to know this story so that when they go there, they know to be respectful. If you're new here, this series is called Spooky Scary Storytime. It's a series where I share listeners' allegedly true stories about the most unbelievable or creepiest things that's ever happened to them. Sometimes I get elder stories. Those are some of my favorites, but the last few nights I've been doing Louisiana stories, and y'all have really seemed to enjoy it, so I figure let's continue the trend because I've been enjoying this too. This is Marcel's story, and he said when he was growing up, his grandmother always said that New Orleans specifically didn't haunt people, but it watched who knew how to behave. And when he was little, he remembers telling her that he didn't like the feeling of being watched when he was walking down the street or when he went anywhere. He always felt like there were eyes on him. And when he told his grandmother this, she smiled. She tells him, no, baby, that's protection. And he says, what do you mean? And she says, only fools feel unwatched here. And she goes, I have a story for you about my old neighbor named Odette. And apparently Odette moved next to the grandmother long before Marcel was born. Tells him that Odette wasn't from Louisiana. She was from somewhere clean and quiet where the dead rested. Moved into this narrow cottage next to his grandmother's house, and his grandmother went over there to introduce herself. And one of the first things she tells Odette is, you should introduce yourself to the house. And Odette just laughs at her. And Odette notices the grandmother's just quiet. She's like, well, what am I supposed to say to introduce myself to the house? And the grandmother says, well, just tell it who you are and why you're here. She's like, tell it your name so the house knows who's inside and it knows to watch you. And Odette's like, that's weird. I'm not going to do that. Then she did other things that were kind of careless and disrespectful to the neighborhood as well. Like when she would walk around at night, she would make a lot of noise. She would sing loudly. She would talk to people and ask questions she had no business asking. She would also walk past the corner shrine. I'm not sure if this was part of her house or something on the block, but she would walk past the corner shrine without touching it or acknowledging it, which really, really bothered the grandmother. But Marcel's grandmother said she really messed up because one day the grandmother was outside, she's watching Odette, she's on the porch, and she takes down this little bundle of cloth that's been tied up on the porch, and she takes it down and she throws it in the trash. The grandmother sees it and thinks that she just doesn't know any better, and she walks over and she says, you really shouldn't take down what you didn't put up. And Odette says, I don't like weird decor. Something along those lines. And Marcel's grandmother tries to explain to her, just because you don't believe in something doesn't mean it doesn't believe in you, or something to that effect. Basically tells her, certain things are put into place because certain things are watching you to make sure that you keep an even score, to make sure that you're being respectful, that you respect the space, and in turn, they'll watch you, they'll protect you. And Odette tells her, I don't like being watched, it gives me anxiety, I don't need anybody looking out for me. She does tell Marcel's grandmother that she has felt watched since she moved into the city, and that it just always feels like the walls are leaned in listening to her. Marcel's grandmother tries to explain to her that certain things are older than she is and have been around longer than she's ever lived here or ever considered living here, but it kind of falls on Odette's deaf ears. She doesn't really care, and Marcel's grandmother kind of figures it's a lost cause, so she just goes home. About a week after that, Odette comes over to the grandmother's house, and she's like, hey, something really weird is happening in my house. What, can I ask you a question? And Marcel's grandmother's like, yeah, what's going on? And she's like, all of the candles in my house keep going out at night. And his grandmother says, well, who did you light them for? And she says, myself. Marcel's grandmother's like, well, that's your problem. You have to light them so they can see you. It's not for you. Odette says, well, whatever's going on, at least it seems to be helping because I don't feel watched in my house anymore. And Marcel's grandmother knew that something was off. When she said that she didn't feel watched anymore, she knew that there was a problem. Tells Marcel at that point that she knew that it was absence, not quiet. After that, apparently, Odette just went along her way. She didn't really have much interaction with Marcel's grandmother. I'm not sure how long she lived in the house, but there was one night, apparently, that Marcel's grandmother woke up and she said the whole neighborhood felt off. All the dogs were quiet. One of the grandmother's friends' rosaries had snapped or something that day, which they took as a sign to mean that something was wrong. Marcel says that he knows that there was another story with the rosary, but he can't remember all the details of it. The morning after, there were a bunch of police at Odette's house, and her boyfriend or the man she had been seeing had gone into her house after not hearing from her, and they had plans or something. He found her sitting at the kitchen table with all of her candles burned down, and she was just at the kitchen table with her eyes still open. They didn't suspect any foul play. They figured it had to be some kind of internal issue, but they noticed that all of the mirrors in the house were turned to face the walls. Even stranger, she tells Marcel that carved on the wood inside the front door is the word unwitnessed, deep in the wood, someone had really put some effort into putting it there. Marcel says he was just a little boy when his grandmother told this story, so he was shook, and he was like, well, what happened to her? And his grandmother just shook her head, and she said nothing took her, but she sent everything away. Marcel says, well, if you could have protected her, why didn't you protect her? And he remembers his grandmother saying, because protection is a relationship. Tells him she didn't want to be seen, she didn't want to be protected. And that night she came into his room when he was ready for bed, and she lit a candle in the window. And he looked at her remembering the story, and he said, well, who's that for? And she said, just so that they know who's in here, wants to be seen, and who's still grateful. And he says he doesn't really know if she told him that story to scare him. He doesn't really know if there was any truth to it, but he said he thought it was interesting to share. He said he no longer lives in Louisiana, but his respect and belief in things that are older than us and things we don't understand goes deep. He said, this is a story I always tell people whenever they complain about feeling watched in Louisiana, because it's not a bad thing.
Vampires in New Orleans during Mardi Gras. So y'all booking flights, planning your outfit, talking about Bourbon Street, but nobody's talking about the vampires? Why do you guys think certain parts of the French Quarter goes quiet after midnight? Yeah, vampires. And I'm not talking cosplay. I have friends and family in the city. I frequently go, so heed my warning. It's a good time though. So yes, New Orleans has vampire tours. Yes, people dress up, but some families down there, they're not playing. You see, the vampires people whisper about in New Orleans aren't the blood-sucking type. They feed on energy, crowds, music, chaos, celebration, all of it. And Mardi Gras is just a buffet. There's a reason why certain bars don't blast bounce throughout the quarter, even though everybody knows everybody loves bounce music. Pay attention. It's that too, but a lot of jazz, a lot of blues, slow rhythms. High energy music disrupts feeding. And the people of New Orleans, the locals, they're off limit. There's some type of pact thing going on, some agreement, I don't know. And don't let those fangs and capes fool you. Some people that are dressed up like vampires aren't dressing up. And some might be just familiar. Real people working for the vampires. You know, to lure people, tourists, you know. But here's what people don't talk about. Well, at least enough. If the vampires run the quarter at night, the werewolf families don't stay too far. Old Louisiana bloodline. Shapeshifters tied to the swamps. They call those werewolves Rougarou out there. And Mardi Gras chaos, that's a cover. There are parts of Louisiana that certain bloodlines don't cross. Like I said before, you know, there's a pact or some form of agreement. Don't ask me too much about it. And then you have the witches. They don't go by their name, witches. They're practitioners, obviously. New Orleans spiritual culture runs deep. So some of them protect and some don't. That's the one group you do not disrespect. You can catch a root on you just moving around careless or pissing off the right people. Or I should say wrong people. Yeah, so just beware. If you guys want to go to those fortune tellers, some of those card readers, be careful with them too. And whether you believe this or not wander the back streets of the quarter, especially when it goes quiet at night. You can tell where it's at. You can tell when you walk too far. There's no lights down there. And there's an eerie silence. You'll get the chills. So you'll feel the energy. New Orleans is already loud for no reason. So when it gets silent, there's usually a good reason. So if you're going to Mardi Gras this year, keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open. And don't be outside at witching hour, please. Y'all want me to talk more about them vampire bars? Or should I leave that alone? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm Cube of Lore to be exact, and this is Forbidden Lore. To my supporters, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. If you're new here, thank you for being here. If you want to stay on this side of the algorithm, you like stories and content like this, don't forget to engage at the bottom up. That's repost, save, comment, and like, of course. And don't forget to follow me. Watch this whole story and you forgot to follow me? What's up, gang? My supporters, let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll meet you there. I'm curious to hear what y'all think. Also, who's going out for Mardi Gras this year? Because I might be stopping by too. And as always, it's only for entertainment purposes. It's all allegedly hypothetically speaking. I'll catch y'all in the next video.
Okay, so let's talk about the supposed vampires that live in New Orleans. Locals believe that the city is actually home to real living vampires. During the 1930s, brothers John and Wayne Carter were executed for committing multiple murders. About a dozen bodies were found, drained of their blood, after a young woman managed to escape the brothers' apartment. Sightings of these brothers are reported up until this very day because their bodies mysteriously vanished from the funeral vault. Why am I thinking of Stefan and Damon right now? Now fast forward to 1984, where 9 people were found around the French Quarter area, all with their throats ripped out. Paramedics and first responders were dumbfounded because even though the scene was gory, there was no blood. Also, vampire culture is majorly popular in New Orleans, but that must have stemmed from somewhere. The missing persons and crime rate is incredibly high around the French Quarter area. What if this is something more?
Story time of how I went to New Orleans and experienced the weirdest paranormal activity. Now, I'm aware New Orleans is a portal, and her energy is extremely thick. You either love New Orleans or dislike it. As for me, I love New Orleans. Their culture, the people, the food, the history, top tier. Now, I always have love for New Orleans, being that my dad and my mom is Haitian, and it's also said that Haiti and New Orleans are considered sisters, with all their related history, such as the food, the architecture, their spiritual practices, hoodoo, voodoo, the list goes on. Now, back in 2022, me and my husband decided to pay a visit in New Orleans again. Now, mind you, we've been to all the tourist sites, the French Quarter, the Garden District, the Lafayette Cemetery, Bourbon Street, the list goes on. Now, mind you, I haven't experienced too many paranormal or ghost activities as much because I had a spiritual protection around me. But however, on this particular day, while walking on Jackson Square, I had my first encounter. And that was in the St. Louis Cathedral. Yes, the church. So on that particular morning, me and my husband, we were strolling. We decided to say, hey, why not just pay a visit to inside the church? And I heard they had like a gift shop in there, etc. So I decided to take a walk inside. Now, before heading inside, my husband got a phone call and he just told me he'll meet me inside when he's done. Now, as soon as I stepped a foot in that church, tell me why I was immediately stopped. Not by a person, but by multiple heavy, I don't know if it was spirits or whatever it was, but it was a heavy ass energy in there. Mind you, I was able to move with my eyes. Like, I looked towards my right, I seen a statue, I seen saints and candles lit, and I looked towards my left and I saw the gift shop there. Now, every second felt more dense and got more heavy, and I was like, okay, what's going on here? Now, I'm a type of person like to feel the energy out and to basically dissect it and see what's going on. Is this energy good or bad? And being that I'm an intuitive person, I could feel, hear, smell, and understand energy quite well. And I was also able to detect that the energy that I was feeling was good and bad. The good side is that was my spiritual team with me. On the negative side, that was the energy that was stuck in that church. I don't know what happened in that church back in the 1800s, 1900s, but something is lingering in there. It was lots of spirits lingering in there. Because as soon as I walked in there, it just felt like all eyes was on me. And not in a good way. It was like, oh shit, she could see me. And everybody, it's like for some reason, everybody was walking around normal. They were shopping. They was going into church. They was going further into church. I couldn't even step a foot inside the church. I couldn't go further. I couldn't get out of the lobby. My feet was not moving at all. I decided to go shift my way in towards the gift shop and trying to move myself, whatever, because it just got more heavier and heavier. I'm trying to make my way out the front door, but I don't know, for some reason I made my way towards the gift shop. And it was also a part of me wanting to get souvenirs at the beginning. So I think that's another reason why my mind was just shifting my way towards the gift shop. Now, as I'm in there for only a few seconds. My husband walks in and he's looking around for me. I'm trying to wave to him to say, hey, I'm right here. But before he even got a chance to see me, he stopped at that front door. He made this face like, and then he turned around and walked out. That right there was intentional. Okay, yeah, he's feeling what I'm feeling. Now, as I'm in the gift shop, I'm looking around. I see the rosaries and a whole bunch of pictures of the saints and stuff like that. So again, one side of me was like, okay, I felt my spiritual team around me, my ancestors, my guides, my guardian angels. I already know I felt their presence around me and they were shielding me. The reason why I'm laughing because I know for a fact they're telling me to get the fuck out of there. Like, what are you doing in this gift shop, child? Get the fuck out. So they asked to swoop my ass out of there. Literally, I felt like I was floating. Like my feet was just floating out of there. Like I was out. Soon as I head out that door, my head felt like a pop. Like I felt like a pop of like you know how you're on a flight and then your ear starts to pop? I felt that type of like pop. That's how dense the fucking energy was in that church. Now I see my husband sitting on the bench and I walked next to him and I couldn't even fucking breathe. I couldn't even talk. So he's looking at me like, yo, babe, what happened? And I'm like, yo, give me a second. I'm saying Psalm 23 over and over and over in my head. I'm trying to ground myself and everything because I'm trying to figure out what's going on here or what the fuck I just experienced or happened. So I finally caught my breath and I finally felt grounded after saying my Psalms, because when you encounter something like that, the fastest thing you want to do is ground yourself. So I turned to my husband. I was like, yo, babe, as I walked in there, I don't know what I was experiencing. I felt something extremely dense and crazy. I felt like it was a whole bunch of spirits floating in the air all around me. I don't know what the fuck it was. And he looks at me and was like, yo, babe, I felt the same thing. I walked in there. I felt like an energy trying to swoop me up and I got the fuck out of there. So I turned around and looked at him like, why didn't you come inside and get me? And he was like, oh, I thought you were further in the church. And I was not trying to go further in there because the energy felt like it was getting heavier and heavier. So I was like, okay, me and you experiencing the same thing and everybody else walking in that shop and the shop and inside the church and taking pictures, walking around like it's nothing. And he was like, I don't know what's going on. He said, out of all the places that we experienced, I would never thought I would experience something like that in the church. And we both agreed to that. But as I walked out and I felt like myself again, I called my mom, you know, being that she's Haitian and, I'm trying to ask her what's the meaning behind that. And she said it could be a lot of things. She said what I experienced personally, it was the fact true. Like, it was a lot of spirits there, like lingering spirits. And it was also my spirit team. And it's a good thing that I got out. And she said also, when you entering places like that, especially late 1800s, late 19, very historical places, it's always good to leave offerings as well, just to pay the respect to the spirits that's there. But it's a whole nother story with that. But anyway, that was my paranormal, scary, ghost, whatever experience that I experienced in New Orleans. But anyway, I never heard anyone experience something like that in the Cathedral Church before. So let me know if you experienced something like that before in New Orleans.
I went to New Orleans for my bestie Deja's birthday. The Airbnb was nice. It was 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. It was a really nice place, but it had this long, creepy hallway that led all the way down to where my best friend was staying at. Day 1, we went out. We went to Bourbon Street, had a good time, came home. Day 2, we're gonna do this all over again, but we're gonna go to the French Quarter to do it. We're sitting in the room just talking like normal, and suddenly the bedroom light starts to flicker on and off. So now I'm sitting here we're looking at each other like, ooh, okay. Anyways, mind you, this is kind of like midday. It's not even nighttime yet. That happened, right? I have to go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom. I leave the bathroom, turn off the lights, go back to the room. Light starts flickering again. I was like, okay, this is weird. And so my bestie Deja, she was like, his name is Bernard. Okay, that's his new name, right? Go back to the bathroom to start getting ready. The light is on. I didn't turn it back on. It's just on. So I said, okay, that's weird. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe it's me losing my mind. Maybe. Now this is where it gets even more creepy. We go to this restaurant called Anton's, and we're sitting there talking, and Deja notices that all of these chandeliers in the restaurant are still, except for the one right next to us, and it's just spinning. So Deja says, Bernard, if that's you, stop. The chandelier immediately stops. And we said, oh. I said, that's crazy. That's crazy. That is crazy. I'm like, whatever. I said, it's just him. He's here protecting us, yada, yada, yada. So now it's the next day-ish, and we decide to go on a haunted tour. And we go to this one called Ghost Adventures. If you go to New Orleans, go to Ghost Adventures. So we're standing outside waiting for the bus to get there to pick us up. I said, it would be so crazy, like if we go to this cemetery and one of the tombstones says Bernard. Like, it'd be so crazy, like yada, yada, yada. We go to the Oddfellas graveyard. We walk in, they give us these like little devices to ghost hunt. She's showing us different things. And she's talking about how she's going to show us one particular grave that like is held near and dear to her heart. Like she has a personal connection to it because he was also from New York. He moved, he came to New Orleans, fell in love, and that's now where he's buried. And so his name was Shield. She starts talking, and one of the questions that the people like to ask is like, when is the most recent person that was buried here? When it comes to Shields, she starts talking about, oh yeah, his most recent relative that was buried here is Bernard Shields. You guys, his name was Bernard, and this caught me so far off guard. I was like, the way that I gasped, and I looked at Deja and I looked at our friend Tybriana, I said, yo, ain't no way. She makes it a point to point out this particular one. I said no. We're sitting in the room at this point because now we went home. We did like all the fun stuff. And so we're sitting in the room, the main room at the end of the creepy hall, and we're talking, and I said, I found a picture of Bernard. I don't know if it's actually him, but I was like, oh, it's a white man. And then I said, maybe he likes some black women. And they said, this was back in the 1800s. No, he didn't. And I said, it was the 1800s. Maybe he couldn't say that he did. And I said, right, Bernard? We hear a click in the living room down the hall. I said, no, this is too real. I said, this is too real. I said, no. This house is crazy. The great thing is that I did not feel like there was any bad energy when it came to Mr. Bernard. I think the only time I got anxious was when we were walking down, I think it was French Quarter, and I went into a voodoo shop, and I did not know you was not supposed to record. And I did record, and it's just like, it was a strange experience, and I was like, let me delete this before some bad happens.
I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Thank you for spending your night with me. If you'd like to submit your own true story to possibly be featured in an upcoming episode, send it to eerie.enigma7@gmail.com. You'll also find it in the description below. Until next time, sweet dreams, or at least try to, and stay eerie.